Well, my friend, it now seems you're on the way to a freaking election. Finally, and hallelujah, I'll ask you this. Why do you think Labor's agreed to something that, according to all the polls, will mean they're about to go into the meat grinder?
Well, good to speak to you as always, and that's certainly one of the interesting questions here. They have been, as we know, in a period of civil war for a significant amount of time, and we know there has been a lot of tension within the party, and particularly within the electorate as to whether or not they should answer the call laid down by Boris Johnson 3 times. And at the 3rd time of asking it, it appears, as you've said, that they are going to answer their call. And they will believe that this is now the time that Jeremy Corbyn can become the next Prime Minister of the UK.
Do you think he can?
I think the polls have suggested for a significant amount of time that that cannot happen. And we know that Boris Johnson, through his Churchillian rhetoric for a significant amount of time, has been way out in the polls. And he has said for a long time that the day of reckoning will be upon those Remainers who have tried to stifle the Brexit process. Jeremy Corbyn being one of those individuals. So absolutely no, I do not think he will be the next Prime Minister. However, there could be some votes taken away from the Conservative Party, and perhaps that could mean we are heading for another coalition.
Oh, dear God. See what happens. Not compulsory voting, of course, and not preferential, so first past the post, and with essentially hard Brexit Party and Brexit Party, don't leave the EU in the Lib Dems, plus all of the where votes happen, including Scotland, where, of course, Labor got an awful lot of seats torn away from it at the last election, where the SNP, the Scottish National Party, which is essentially the Free Scotland Party, their path is narrow, but as we've seen in Australia, nothing is inevitable. See what happens. Here's what Jeremy Corbyn has had to say. Still haven't heard from Boris Johnson.
We are ready for an election. We're going to go out there with a very strong message of how we transform our society to end inequality and injustice and deal with the devastating poverty that so many people face. We always said we wanted an election. We do want an election, but we wanted no deal to be taken off the table. We've now had confirmation from all 28 EU member states that no deal is off the table. So we're going to go out there with the biggest campaign this party has ever mounted. Totally united, totally determined. And I'm absolutely looking forward to going every part of this country with my wonderful shadow cabinet team here and all the fantastic Labour activists to give a message of hope where there isn't one with this government.
So finally, let's talk about the maybes from here. And look, there's always a chance that someone amends something and something happens that means we're not talking about what we should be talking about tomorrow, and I'm breaking my own rules about endless and pointless speculation here. But you know, the polls have been wrong. They have been wrong before on the Brexit question. They have been wrong on Trump. They were wrong in Australia. They've been wrong even the last time around at your general election. So I want to talk about the Brexit Party and the Brexit Party's ability to hurt Conservatives. Is there any indication, and I listen to Nigel Farage's radio show on LBC, it's a good podcast, but he doesn't really seem to give any indications where they're going to do a deal where, look, we'll run in the pro-Brexit bits held by Labor, we'll take those seats instead. It's going to seem like we're going to run everywhere. And that means if they can get 13, 14, 15% of the vote, well, Labor would end up just pipping the Conservatives in different places.
I think that's a really good piece of analysis, and probably why Jeremy Corbyn has called the election now, because for much of the past month or so, Boris Johnson has clung on to the type of do or die rhetoric. He absolutely promised the people of Britain that the UK would exit the European Union on October 31st. That has now not happened, and his critics are simply saying this is another lie told by Boris Johnson to the electorate. And of course, Nigel Farage, he will be arguing that actually there's only one party that could have ever delivered Brexit. It was not going to be the Conservatives, it was the Brexit Party. And that is why we fully expect they will leak a lot of votes, the Conservative Party, to the Brexit Party. And the summary, therefore, is that Labour do have a chance, partly because it's not going to be a full Conservative count.